Hello YouTube. We'll talk about Siberia today. Minusинsk is a historical town in Krasnoyarsk Krai in Russia, located among the mountains of South Siberia. Minusинsk marks the center of the Minusинsk Hollow, one of the most important archaeological areas there. Back in 2015, Novosibirsk Siberian archaeologists found that 2,500 years ago, surgeons in the territory of southern Siberia carried out complex surgical operations, including craniotomy. At the same time, they had tools that were not yet available in Europe. This news at one time went almost unnoticed, although the discovery of the tools is very curious. In the arsenal of the surgeon at the end of the first millennium BC, there was an operational knife for cutting bones, saws, cutting tools, tweezers, medical probes, and an analog of a modern scalpel, a lancet. Most of these instruments are similar in form and functionally to the instruments of European surgeons of the same time. The only exception is saws that are not found in Europe during this period. That's according to the scientist Pavel Volkov, a leading researcher at the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnography of the Siberian branch of the Russian Academy of Sciences. In the photographs taken at this museum, not all artifacts are medical instruments. Some are weapons, but each of these exhibits is a perfect work of craftsmen who lived long before our time, before our era. And looking at them, you understand that ancient developed civilization existed in Siberia 2,500 years ago. These incredible artifacts are presented quite modestly in the Martyanov Museum of Local Lore of Minusинsk and are practically unexplored. Only some of them were identified as medical instruments. Interestingly, these instruments are superior to the ancient Roman ones, which were considered to be perfect. The Siberian instruments were found in the monuments of Tagar culture, dating back to the period of 4th to 3rd centuries BC. It is interesting that some of the Minusинsk artifacts are not described at all, and their true purpose is still undefined. Who knows what's actually in the shelves and storage of the museum? That scientist, Pavel Volkov, studied artifacts from the collection of the Minusинsk Regional Museum of Local Lore, and ancient surgical instruments were found, like I said, in the monuments of the Tagar culture. Now, he also examined the traces on the surface of trepanized skulls and date back to about 4th to 3rd centuries BC, and compared them with traces with a number of artifacts that could be used during medical operations in the early Iron Age in Siberia. And their description says that they date back to the 7th to 2nd century BC. Now, trepanning, also known as trepanation, trephination, trefining, or making a burr hole. This verb trepan derives from Old French, from medieval Latin trepanum, and also from Greek trypanon. Literally, it means borer or auger. Now, this making a burr hole is a surgical intervention in which a hole is drilled or scraped into the human skull, exposing the dura mater or dura mater to treat health problems related to intracranial diseases or release pressurized blood buildup from an injury. In ancient times, holes were drilled into a person who was behaving in what was considered to be an abnormal way, to let out what people at the time believed were evil spirits. Evidence of trepanation has been found in prehistoric human remains from Neolithic times onward. Now, these ancient Siberian tools are again better than many modern ones. Complex shape, polishing, and small parts. It is strange that no one pays attention to the fact that the sensational artifacts are stored in Minusins, except for few Russian researchers of their country's mysterious past. And Volkov, the scientist, revealed that an ancient surgeon used special operational knives for cutting bones. Tools of this type leave traces when cutting bone, similar to those observed on trepanized turtles, explained Volkov. Also, among the arsenal of ancient doctors identified special saws that have no analogues in European archaeological collections. The Russian scientists also discovered tweezers, an instrument that could be used as medical probes in the collections of the museum. It is obvious, he says, that the inhabitants of southern Siberia during this period had complex knowledge in surgery, not inferior to the ancient Roman and ancient Greek surgeons. But who were those ancient skilled surgeons of southern Siberia? Now let's look at another mystery of Siberia. See, in Siberia, in the Ural Mountains, and in the Primoria or maritime province of Russia, there are such ruins of ancient capitals and cultural centers, that even the most advanced modern weapons could not cause. Yes, they could not cause such damages and ruins. Well, that's according to Russian researchers. Not long ago, there was an expedition to the south of the Kemerovo region in Mountain Shoria, Gornaya Shoria, Mountainous Shoria, or Mountain Shoria. It's a territory in southern Siberia, Russia, east of the Altai Mountains. It is the southern part of Kemerovo Oblast, or region. The indigenous population is the Shors people. Kemerovo Oblast has Kuznetsk Basin to the west and Minusins Basin to the east, Altai Republic to the south, Altai Krai northwest of that, and Tuva to the southeast. If you remember listening to my videos, looking at my presentation, you will also recall some of the areas like Tuva, related to Mongolian mysteries, for example, and Altai I mentioned before too, and Minusins was mentioned just a few minutes ago. You can see a pattern. Now, geologists have repeatedly reported that in the mountains, at an altitude of 1,000 meters or more, lie the ancient ruins of a vanished civilization, according to mythology, one of the ancient civilizations in Siberia. What they saw there is impossible to describe. Before them stood a megalithic masonry made up of composed blocks, some of which reached 20 meters in length and 6 meters in height. 20 meters long, 6 meters high. Blocks. Okay? The foundation of the structure consisted of these bricks, if you can call them that. And higher, there were smaller blocks, but they too were striking in their mass and size. When the explorers examined the ruins, they saw on some of them traces of obvious ancient melting. This discovery led Russians to conclude that the demise of the structure was due to powerful thermal effects, possibly an explosion. But when? And what weapons were used? When the Russians examined the mountain, those explorers saw granite blocks of more than 100 tons or more. It looked as if the blocks scattered in different directions from the explosion. They filled the gorge and littered the slopes of the mountain. But how the ancients could raise giant boulders to such a height and where they took them from, for the Russian explorers it remains a mystery. When they asked their guides about what is nearby in the mountains, the guides replied that there was something like an ancient giant capacitor. It is assembled from vertically placed granite boulders, and in some places of the structure, ceilings are still visible. What it was is unclear, but the fact that the artifacts were made by human hands is beyond doubt. They managed to explore these ruins, but as it turned out, the vast territory around is also covered with the same remains. In Soviet times, there were several prisons or labor camps or concentration camps in this territory. But now they are gone, and therefore any journalist and scientist can get there if they want to. But the issue is that such ruins, traces of a great distant past, are found not only in Mount Shoria. As the Russian researchers managed to find out exactly or identical ruins made of giant blocks and polygonal masonry are in the Altai, Sayan, in the Urals, Verkhoyansk Ridge, Evenkia, and even Chukotka. And I suggest you also look at my videos about Chukotka, about its other mysteries. Now, geologists from the village of Kamushka, Междуреченский district, have long been engaged in research in Gornaya Shoria, but you see, during their research they came across strange megalithic structures, but back in the Soviet times, when the roads to Gornaya Shoria were blocked by checkpoints of correctional colonies or labor camps, local geologists and hunters, they knew about such mysterious places, but could not really study them. After the collapse of the USSR, labor camps in the area were disbanded, and the road to strange megalithic objects was opened. Some people already call this strange object Russian Stonehenge. Now let's go to another area in Siberia. Chichaburg is an underground city in Siberia, and probably more than that. We just don't know enough right now. You see, Chichaburg is an archaeological site in the Zdvinsk district of the Novosibirsk region, located 12 kilometers from the village of Zdvinsk on the shores of Lake Big Chicha. In the late 1990s of the last century, when performing aerial photography in the Novosibirsk region, researchers discovered an unusual anomaly on the shores of Lake Chicha. The contours of buildings were clearly visible in the image and over an area of more than 12 hectares. Scientists using geophysical equipment explored a mysterious place called Chichaburg. The pictures, they showed clear contours of streets, neighborhoods, powerful defensive structure, and on the outskirts, remains of a developed metallurgical production. It turned out that there was a class stratification in the city. Stone palaces were adjacent to the houses of commoners. The ancient city was in hiding, so to say, for many centuries on the shore of Lake Chicha, covered with a half-meter layer of soil. Ancient residents, left it suddenly, possibly due to fire, floods, fleeing raids of warlike neighbors, or from a terrible epidemic. We don't know. According to preliminary excavations, the settlement was created in the 7th to 8th century BC. Therefore, a developed civilization existed in Siberia in the same times as the ancient Greek one. Apparently, people lived here in that area for a long time. The premises were arranged and divided into household plots. Vessels and ceramic pots were placed in one place, meat was cut, bones were found, there was a whole system of hearths. Metal was melted in one of them. Ceramic remains were found with traces of thermal effects, fragments of foundry molds, toxins, bronze, and even a piece of iron. It seems that each family melted metal for its own needs. But where did they get the ore? Were the ores brought from the Altai, the Urals, the Kazakhstan? Did there exist trade, exchange of goods? The area of the proto-city is more than 240,000 square meters, and its population, according to approximate estimates, was from 400 to 2,000 inhabitants. Moreover, according to scientists, these were people of the European type, with mild signs of the characteristic of a race of humankind native to Asia. Those are just few of Siberia's mysteries. I will bring you more, but the information that I have demonstrated to you, well, there was an unknown civilization in southern Siberia that was gone, somehow disappeared, and we don't know what caused it to disappear. It's very exciting. I will definitely bring you more stuff about Siberia, but I wanted to describe to you the Russian Stonehenge because we don't know what else will be found. Now, about this ancient, mysterious civilization, well, you see, it wasn't the most ancient one in Siberia, as the Russian Stonehenge demonstrates. The area has not really been researched by scientists, and there are so many discoveries in store. I wish I was a young archaeologist in modern Russia and had the chance to explore Siberia, the Arctic lands, and the Far East. The Soviet Union is no more, and there are tremendous possibilities in contemporary Russia, but I'm not sure how many expeditions are planned and whether there are funds for them. Nevertheless, if one loves adventure, search for ancient civilizations, for traces of ancient aliens and vanished kingdoms, Siberia is definitely the place. Next time, we should look at Central, Northern, Western, and Eastern Siberia too, because they also have enigmas and mysteries. Thank you for your attention. Please support my research, and I want to bring you more information about mysterious Eurasia. Thank you.